I have the pleasure today of speaking with Stephanie Smith, who is the CEO of Cogwheel. Cogwheel has a focus on digital marketing strategies for hotels so that they can, at the end of the day, make more money. So, Stephanie, it's fantastic to speak with you today. How are you this afternoon?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, David. Looking forward to having our discussion around agency services as well as business intelligence as well for hotels.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to jumping into it. So why don't we jump into the first question that I have for you? So, at its core element, hotel digital marketing is the use of online channels and digital communication methods to promote a hotel to potential guests, drive bookings, and ultimately revenue and profit for that property. So at its basis, then, how does Cogwheel Marketing help achieve this?
That's a good question, David. So I think we all know that each hotel and each market vary differently, right? So between the competition, market demands, economy, all these things are kind of shifting over time. So we take a look at it and say, okay, what is the customer journey and all the different touch points that we, from an agency side, can really control, and looking at all the touch points. So yeah, you can come to us and say, hey, run us a Google Ads campaign. But for us, we like to take a more foundational approach first to say, what's going on in this hotel? What are the goals, the commercial strategy goals that we're trying to reach? And then identify those gaps. So that way we know we're putting the right money in the right place to actually close those gaps versus just kind of throwing money at the wall to see what sticks. I think a lot of people think if I spend A, then B is going to happen. And it's not most customer journeys are not very linear. It's much more like running the whole alphabet to say, how is it that we can impact somebody's decision up until the point revenue management sets rates and is able to make that transaction.
So my next question for you, I like, because I'm a big sports fan, and you actually compared a hotel's commercial strategy to a soccer team, where the full team has to work together, obviously, not independently, kind of to achieve success. The so-called breaking down of silos, where sales acts as the offense, marketing maybe the midfield, and then you have revenue management as the defense. Can you kind of expound on this? What is the relationship between marketing then really and revenue management?
Yeah, so with my soccer team analogy, I look at it as sales is there as the offense, building those relationships, building that kind of base business that we can build on so that we can maximize transient rates. And then marketing comes in at the midfield. There's definitely optics to helping with sales support, but also taking the data that comes from sales and revenue management and be able to action on that. So if there's a lull in sales, or we're forecasted to have a dip in transient demand, then the marketing team should be able to kind of say, okay, how can we get in front of the right guests at the right time? So it's kind of this ongoing game that we play where revenue management is providing the data and the timing, and then marketing is coming in with visibility and action. So there's definitely, but revenue management is there to understand like the pricing and the pace and pickup standpoint, where marketing is there, should be there looking at that whole, influencing that whole pre-marketing journey and that pre-booking journey. Because once the reservation's made, we've lost market share pickup to competitor hotels, it's kind of too late. And so what we see a lot of times is that marketing is seen as this Hail Mary. So waiting till the very end of the game to say, hey, marketing, what can you do? Like, we're not going to meet budget this month. But at that point, it's too late. Like, we really need to be playing the whole game to actually be successful.
Yeah, it's perishable inventory, as we all know.
Yes, for
I
sure.
like the analogy too. Does that make you David Beckham in this whole scenario?
Well, it's funny. My son just went to his first Major League Soccer game, so I can talk
Ah,
all day about soccer.
very cool, very cool. So my next question for you, actually, I said I'm a big sports fan, but I'm also a big film guy as well. And I was watching, you made this presentation likening the customer journey to the movie Titanic, starring obviously Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio. I won't give away the ending. You basically kind of went through this journey and comparing it to kind of a love story. So I thought it was a fresh take on a topic kind of as old as time. Why did you use the Titanic movie as a basis for explanation, and kind of what should we take from it?
I know this was one of my favorite speeches that I gave at HSMAI a couple years ago that I've got on our website if you want to check it out. But, the Titanic is this story around, money and wealth and, different chasms of people interacting. And at the end of the day, to give away the ending, like when the ship sinks, like all that money and wealth, it didn't mean a lot of things. So I
Yeah.
think as we relate that to the hotel side of things, there's this kind of thought process around ROAS, or return on ad spend, and how this is kind of this KPI. But the reality is, just like that, that necklace that sunk with the Titanic, at the end of the day, you can't take return on ad spend to the bank. It's not it's a hard thing for a lot of people gravitate towards that KPI, but it's like, are we actually moving the needle? Are we getting in front of the people that we want to? Are we identifying and closing those gaps? So related to Titanic, we know that Rose went through this reinvention of herself and rediscovered who she was. Very much like this, customer journey. Everybody that's planning this vacation is going through this customer journey. So at the end of the day, we're trying to figure out, how to impact that, and how that changes over time. How people shop continue to change and continue to mold. And then there's also that caveat of, if you remember in the movie, Jack gets invited to the dinner and he feels a little bit out of place. So for me, it was also an analogy of making sure that marketing has a seat at the commercial strategy table. So sometimes I personally feel like marketing is kind of devalued when you put it up against sales and revenue management. So just like we want to have Jack to have a seat at the table, I want marketing people to also have a seat at that strategy and goal setting conversation.
Interesting. So in your analogy, marketing is the Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic, who, by the way, I think could have fit on that door at the end of the movie.
Don't we all
That's what
think
everyone
that?
says, but
For sure.
I'll let the fans go through that one. So one of the great lines kind of in management and marketing is, you can't manage what you can't measure. And it was attributed to the late kind of great management consultant, Peter Drucker, that if you took business classes, you've probably learned about. So you just talked about, as you mentioned, hotels often measure marketing success on KPIs like ROAS, I guess return on ad spend. I probably pronounced it incorrectly, ROAS, and benchmark marketing KPIs that owners don't really truly understand sometimes. So what does digital marketing success look like in the hotel industry, and how is kind of Cogwheel using maybe BI tools to make it easier to measure overall success?
Yeah, that's a good question. So related to, the return on ad spend conversation, if I could have a simple analogy here, like if there's some statistics that say people consume 277 pages of content up until the point where they actually stay at a hotel, or kind of book that trip. So and I'm not going down the attribution rabbit hole, but if you're looking at those 277 pages, a lot of attribution models are going to give credit to that 277th page. They're going to negate the 276 pages that came before that. So, we all know that, all of those different touch points are influencing somebody's decision down the road. So while return on ad spend is a directional KPI, it's not the end all be all. So from our standpoint on the business intelligence side, we've started to benchmark different KPIs. So we have what we consider KPIs that are both hotel size agnostic and ADR agnostic, where you can say, how am I doing against myself? How am I doing against the other portfolio hotels that I as an owner might own or manage? But it goes beyond that. Now that we have well over 600 hotels that we're able to benchmark against, we're looking to say, how does my hotel do against similar chain scale hotels? And how does my hotel do against hotels in the same market? So it's really just like a star report, but for your digital marketing. That's the easiest way to explain it, to say, outside of ADR and occupancy and RevPAR, these are different KPIs that people can start to say, what is good or bad in my digital marketing?
Yeah, purple hoteliers, as we know, they know their star reports. That fits in kind of perfectly. In digital marketing in general, really the goal, as you kind of referenced before, is to get in front of the right people at the right time. In the hotel industry, it's also about getting them to book through the most kind of profitable channel to hotel owners. How do you, in digital marketing at a Cogwheel, how do you look to deliver a higher volume of direct bookings per se for hotels? And also, not to discount the OTAs, which have huge market share, and by the way, huge marketing dollars to spend, as we know. Where does the online travel agency sit within this kind of booking funnel as well? How do they play off each other?
Yeah, I think for a long time there was there's definitely a direct mindset when it comes to like book direct, and I'm totally on board with that. But I think there's this synergy that has to happen and where the OTA should be viewed as our partners. So if we're looking at a balanced approach to say, when does it make sense to lean into these partnerships more? When does it make sense? Because you can't just, there's no flip that you can switch and just say, okay, I want to have all direct bookings, because everybody would do that, right? It's
Yeah.
not, because of all those different touch points across that customer journey. It's something that you really have to make it a point that you do over time. It's not a short-term sprint to be able to transition to that direct mindset. And I think the other piece of it is just looking at it from where can marketing make the biggest impact? So understanding your group and transient mix in terms of, what your goals are in terms of, BT business in terms of group, and understanding that sales mix that you're trying to go after. And then on the flip side, looking at it from a channel mix perspective. So how can us in marketing look at to say, it's one of the KPIs that we actually benchmark against, and say, how much is our website producing compared to like hotels? Is our website pulling its weight? And, throughout all the different tactics you can deploy, is the website doing what it's supposed to compared to like hotels?
And I imagine then a great website, we always hear about, great imagery. There's many things that, fast load times. There's things that a website should be able to do for a hotel that can, promote it better than other types of websites where the imagery is not as good. I mean, I know from doing some of my research, that's very important kind of within the whole thing.
But I think and this is where I might have a little bit different perspective than some other marketing agencies, because a lot of people think the journey starts with the website. Yeah. And I think the journey starts way before the website. So if people don't know you exist, haven't engaged with you in other kind of online opportunities, and they may never get to your website. So all this great experience might not be seen if you're not engaging with people through social, through OTAs, through Google, through all the different other touch points before they actually get to your website.
It's a whole ecosystem. I totally agree. So any conversation nowadays, whether it be marketing, whether it be, anything, real estate, any kind of topic out there, there's always artificial intelligence kind of crops up as kind of a topic of discussion. It's permeating, every industry, disrupting almost, all industries in a good or bad way. We'll see. The cat's not out of the bag yet on that one, I guess. And I can imagine for digital marketing, there's a huge kind of role for it too now and in the future. What is your overall take on AI vis-a-vis kind of the digital marketing business? Are you exploring or building tools that kind of leverage AI on the day-to-day?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a term. It's kind of that buzz term that everybody throws in a daily conversation, but a lot of people don't truly understand it, right? So I think on the Cogwheel Marketing side, we certainly use it from an efficiency standpoint, just to be more productive like we all do. So everything from call recordings to brainstorming to preliminary market research to writing copy, like all of that stuff, should be, it's kind of like a tool to help support you on the daily basis. But I think, that's really more the generative AI piece, like the ChatGPTs of the world. I think where companies should continue to go, including what we've done on the Cogwheel Analytics side, is to get into training those large language models. So back in a couple months ago, we went through the Microsoft AI Co-Innovation Lab, where they brought in our team. We had applied with the specific use cases what we're trying to solve, and said, how can we do data analysis in a secure way that allows people to know that there's privacy around a lot of their data, but also transition from a BI mindset, which is saying what happened in the past, to get into more of a prescriptive and predictive, to say, what are we going to do about this? So a lot of our engagement with Microsoft was going through and saying, okay, we've got a lot of information in our BI. How do we make this actionable? How do we help hotels and hoteliers identify trends? And then what are you going to do about it? And then creating that machine learning loop to say, okay, this worked and this didn't work. Because there's a lot of analysis paralysis around, you got a lot of data, but you're not actually doing anything with it, right? So it's about transitioning that mindset from a BI mindset into more of a forward-looking mindset. So Microsoft's really been a great partner with us to really help educate us on how to train that large language model to get the output that we really want to see.
Very cool. So I have to say, you dropped a lot of knowledge bombs on us today. Knowledge bombs. Dropped some knowledge on us about digital marketing and how what you guys can do to kind of help the hotel industry at the end of the day. Really, I think it really comes down to being more profitable at the end of the day, and using these different levers within the kind of marketing ecosystem. So kind of what my last question to you is, how do you ultimately quantify success for your clients? What is it, and why do they, come to you and say, "Hey, Stephanie, I need you to help me with this"? How do you quantify success for them?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different answers to this question because I think, again, each hotel has a different kind of goals that they're trying to achieve. So on the Cogwheel marketing side, it's definitely about, viewing, we want to be viewed as partners, not vendors. And if we don't have shared aligned goals in terms of, how we think in terms of mindset, shared goals, and being able to put actual strategic action plans to that, because I think there's a kind of a checklist mentality to say, hey, if I do all these right things, then X is going to happen. That isn't always the case. So it really starts with that commercial strategy goal alignment to say what it is you're trying to achieve, and are we the right partners to help you achieve those goals? Because we're very transparent about who we are and who we aren't. Like we're not a public relations firm. We are not, you know, creating cool TikToks for you. Like that's just not really in our wheelhouse. And then, on the software side, on the Cogwheel analytics side, it's much about saying, okay, like how do we go back to benchmarking that performance? So how do we make the data that you have access to every day? How do you make it actionable? How do we bubble up that stuff to say, to be able to communicate in a more intelligent way with your owners to say, hey, this is working, this is not, and this is what the expectations are. So I think the hotel, like you said, with that perishable inventory, it's very unique and it can't be compared to a lot of other e-commerce models. And it's so complex. It's just trying to, again, that ongoing education that needs to happen, within the industry about marketing as a whole.
Well, I have learned a lot today about digital marketing, and I imagine if you're a hotelier, a hotel owner out there, and you're looking to improve your digital marketing success, reach out to Stephanie Smith and her team. You can find them at cogwheelmarketing.com. I believe I have that correct. Stephanie, anything else you wanted to add to the conversation?
No, I appreciate you having me. And you can also find more about our BI tool at cogwheelanalytics.com. So
Very good.
thanks for having me, David.
Very good. Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate you talking to me today. Take care.
Thank you.